Hello, Legion. It's Hadrian. Thank you for being here. It's the evening of August 30th, 2018, and I thought you might like a bit of a channel update. This is going to be an informal look ahead. And I say informal, I don't even know why I qualify it, because it's been so long since I've done a proper look ahead video, a formal look ahead video, if you will, that most of you probably don't even know that I do them. And the last time I did them, I think there were probably less than 1,000 views, even though that one's been up for over a year. The last couple of ones that I did were pretty long, and that's one of the reasons I haven't done them in a while, is that I've really, struggled to find the time to do them, and I've spent some time thinking about how I want to do them going forward, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in this video. So definitely intended to kind of give you an update on the channel. That's the general definition of a look ahead. It's going to give you an update on the series that I'm playing right now, on the games that I'm looking forward to playing, and on the games that you're looking forward to seeing again that I might not be playing right now. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, long dark viewers. So we are going to be talking about all of this in short form in the next couple of minutes. But the most important thing that I want to talk about right now, and you're looking at this schedule, and yes, this is accurate to this week, and those of you that have actually been following along waiting for daily content might already know it. I'm not dead. I'm alive. I'm well. I'm not, nothing catastrophic has happened. Well, something work-related catastrophic has happened, and I'll talk a bit about that. But the schedule obviously has not been running optimally. I mean, if we go back to, last week, you can see where, things were off to a great start with multiple time slots going at once, and then everything just kind of stopped. So what's been going on? First, let me just talk to you about the usual challenges that can cause disruption with the schedule. And then I'll talk about this last week of silence. I don't share this, by the way, to offer like an excuse. I don't want my tone to come across incorrectly. I'm not trying to say, let me tell you why I haven't been giving you videos. I mean, obviously, I would like to offer you an explanation because I think that's a nice thing to do. But really what I'm trying to do here is to shed some light on my process. I want dedicated viewers to have a good idea what's going on with me outside of just the channel, without obviously, too much detail, so that when things go off the rails, nobody worries. So again, the purpose of sharing this is not to induce anxiety by sharing my hectic life with you and telling you the details of why this happened. It's so that you get it and you worry less, when things like this happen. And honestly, the channel going dark for not quite a week, because I recorded enough in advance of surviving Mars to make it about a 5-day quiet period, is unusual. And as a matter of fact, I think it's unprecedented that it's gone this long without me posting some kind of video saying that what's going on. So I'll talk about that in a moment. Usual challenges. The schedule, you might not know this, is supposed to run at all times 2 series. Some of you, many of you in fact, are probably used to 3 series at once, and that's frankly because I've been doing too much. The channel is very lively and it's diverse, and there's a lot of different types of viewers and commentary going on when I'm running 3 series, and I enjoy it, and you enjoy it, and it's fun for everyone, but there are just supposed to be 2. That's what I originally carved out time for, and that's what I still really have time for. When there's a bonus series, it's when I am so on top of my game that I find that I can sit down one evening and just do, start doing a weekly recording session for a 3rd series. And that's how it's supposed to work in theory. And when things get busy, that can go off the rails quite quickly. So optimally, all of the recording for these videos, for these 2 time slots, happens entirely on the weekend. At least one day before the newest video needs to be scheduled. It's usually on a Sunday. Sometimes I combine it between Saturday and Sunday, but I really try to confine it just to getting up on a Saturday or Sunday morning and knocking out as much recording as I can that is good quality content and that I can be proud of for the next week. When this weekend session doesn't happen, my YouTube time starts to get uncomfortably close to my non-YouTube time. And I always have lots of other work to do on a weekly basis once the weekend's over, especially now. I'm going to spare you the intimate details, but most of you know that I maintain a very busy schedule. So that's why I use spreadsheets like this, right? One of the biggest setbacks that can occur when I'm behind on recording is a same-day recording session. Recording content, and this is interesting to think about. Recording content for a time slot that is coming up on the same day is actually more stressful and time-consuming than doing advanced recordings, even in big chunks. When I do advanced recordings, I can record and then step away from my work. I can jump into non-YouTube tasks immediately, and then that evening I can go back and I can edit my audio, I can make my thumbnails, and I can get the uploads going before I go to bed. It can be kind of a mindless process, and I can just let it run in the background. All those back-end processes can happen while I'm otherwise occupied or while I'm asleep. It's great. But for same-day recordings, I have to supervise the back-end process, especially when it's last minute. I have to make sure that I am jumping on the next step as soon as I can so that the schedule doesn't get derailed. And that's just because I'm hyper-conscientious and I can't help it. I want to make sure that I don't miss a time slot. Even if it's late, I want to get it to you as soon as possible. So it's like watching the pot and waiting for it to boil. It's too stressful to think about for anything else. And sometimes I have so much on my plate with graduate school and traveling for various reasons and other things I'll talk about in a second. So much on my plate to deal with when I get that feeling of, okay, I'm going to have to do a same-day recording and this is going to be stressful. Sometimes I just have to make the healthy decision and say, I'm going to get back to this when I'm done with everything else. And 1 or 2 time slots might be dark for a day or two, or I'll take the channel to half schedule like we had for Surviving Mars here for a bit. Normally there's another series running in half schedule, but the the schedule has been all kinds of wonky this quarter. It's been interesting, and I wouldn't have thought that because shortly before this quarter began, I defended my thesis project, which, as many of you know, was a huge deal for me and freed up a lot of kind of mental headspace, and I was less stressed. But I'm going to keep going because this is I think it would be useful for some of you to kind of have this information. So on top of this, on top of everything I just told you and how important it is to, make sure that I maintain that schedule on top of all my other work, on top of my other obligations, and how that can go awry when I don't get it all done in the right time period. And many of you, I'm sure, can relate. If you keep busy schedules, you have set times for certain things, and if you don't accomplish them in that set time, and you know that it has to get done anyway, all of a sudden, all of your other stuff starts getting crammed together. Enter the new variable. So, actually, I haven't mentioned this on video yet, I don't think. I've mentioned my girlfriend, but there's a little detail that nobody's aware of, and I haven't talked about it in a video before. Years and years ago, in my look ahead videos, I act like I've been doing YouTube forever. I've been doing YouTube since 2015. My first several look ahead videos that I did, and just in various videos where I might have mentioned, I might have mentioned my girlfriend from time to time. I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years last April 2017, and lived in lived in our apartment before I moved to my current apartment with this new recording space that I've talked about from time to time for about a month before actually moving out. By the way, 0 out of 10, do not recommend. Never, ever, 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 ever do that. Don't be the person that stays in a space that you shared with someone that you once loved. Even if the relationship has amicably ended and you know that it's best that you move on, which was true in this case, it is very challenging. Again, don't do that. It's been over a year since then, but interestingly enough, of course, I've still been talking about my girlfriend, obviously a different girlfriend since then, and very unexpectedly, about a month after I moved in here in June of 2017, I reestablished contact with someone that I had known before the last relationship, and someone that was extremely influential upon my life, extremely influential upon my current career track, and just my choosing to leave my old job and go into where I am now. And having her back in my life has been extraordinary. And like I mentioned on one of my recent videos, I went to Chicago with her just a few weekends ago. We've been having a great time, but she does live out of state. So I travel a lot. On top of traveling to see her or spending time with her when she sees me, I have conference-related travel. I have going home to see my family, my parents, and these things kind of add up. Now, when I am showing you my schedule here, one thing that's going to be common in look aheads going forward is you're going to see my travel days. And I want you to look at my travel from this summer. These are weekends that I was out of town for some reason. Some were to go home and see my folks, some were to spend time with my girlfriend, some were work-related travel, but in any case, you have a travel day, and then you have days where I'm gone and I'm not doing any recording. So I'm just going to go through the weeks here, and I want you to see. Remember how I was talking about I use my weekends to record? Let me go back, having just said that, and show you this again. Is it starting to make sense why the schedule has been a little nuts? But here's what's interesting. I want you, this is obviously this week, and we're going to talk about what's coming up here in a second, but I'm going to very quickly go through, just watch the bottom here, and notice what happens in September. I don't have much travel scheduled right now for September, and I don't anticipate adding any at the moment. So I really, really, really want to take advantage of that. But with all of those things kind of gathered together, one of the things that happens is, I mean, here's a great example. This is, hang on, when did we go to Chicago? Yeah, this is the Chicago trip here. Notice that in this case, I had just gotten back from another trip, and I mentioned this in my videos, 4 days prior. So I had, you know, this amount of time that I was out of town, for which I had to record in advance before I left. And then when I got back, I had to make sure that I recorded in advance for the rest of the week, and then record enough time for, you know, being gone. And obviously, it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. You know, I had too much going on because I've also been preparing for a new school year for the first time in 2 years. Last year, I didn't do a whole lot of teaching or academic work. I am back to teaching a class, and I'm also taking a graduate level class and all of the readings that are associated with it. So I was doing a lot of prep work starting about right here or so. And so that would take up a lot of my time during these small gaps where I would normally need to record as much as possible. Now, those, again, that's just the usual challenges. Those are just the things that can pile up and cause problems. Now let's talk about what's just happened this past week, because this is a whole different animal. And I do want, in this case, to offer a bit more of an explanation in the way of an excuse, because I have a good one. The day that I was coming back from Chicago, which was here, notice what happened when I got back from Chicago. I immediately jumped in and I started recording for Camillus, and I jumped in and I brought Dynastic Divinity back. Wasn't back for very long, it'll be back soon, but you know, I was really getting the thoughts humming again for a second. So obviously you might be wondering, okay, I kind of understand your system now at this point, Hadrian. What happened? What happened here? What caused this drop off? It's, you know, the schedule really kind of started taking off right here, and then something obviously shut you down again that wasn't travel related because you didn't leave town this weekend. What happened? Well, I found out that after preparing for this class that I'm teaching for a couple of weeks, as I mentioned I was doing, I found out this day, the day I got back, that I have an entirely new textbook in teaching this course. Thankfully, it's very similar to the one that I've taught from in the past. I've taught this course before, but I didn't know that until a week before the first day of class. So, yeah, that was unexpected. And because that happened, I had to do a whole bunch of extra work. And when I began to realize, wow, you know, I haven't had this level of work in about a year, this is a lot to juggle, and I haven't practiced having this many balls in the air at one time in a while, I just realized I've got to stop. I've got to stop. I've just got to put everything down. I'm not going to post and offer an explanation. Like, I've got to go full tilt on just my other obligations aside from YouTube. And that's what happened here. And what I'm doing looking forward is I'm focusing more on what I said in the beginning of the video about how I'm supposed to have just 2 series at all times going forward. I'm still going to work on strategy school, so we're going to have a 3rd series going in the morning, and I really want to get that one running regularly. It hasn't been so far. We'll talk about that in a second. But that is more or less where I've been. So I know that was a long kind of story, and that was really for everyone's benefit. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that those, you know, kind of add up. And I know most of you are going to say, dude, it's fine, you know, do what you got to do. But I want people to understand so that they don't worry. That's the main point of my sharing all this, is that I'm fine. I did have one person comment, probably jokingly, is Hadrian dead? And like, no, I'm not dead. I'm thankful there weren't more comments like that, to be completely frank, and that's just a testament to the patience of the Legion, which I appreciate. So let me now talk a bit about the revamped look-ahead process, and then we'll talk about series forecasts and things going forward. So for look-aheads going forward, one of the reasons we haven't done a look-ahead in a while is that, frankly, they would just take way too much time. I was trying to make them into these really, really, really complicated processes, and that's a general life tip, by the way, especially for you young viewers who are enjoying the channel and who are, for some reason, I'm very impressed that you're still listening at this point. Thank you for your uncommonly good attention spans. You should be commended for still being here. I mean that sincerely. When you're trying to do something, especially do something that you enjoy, even if you enjoy it, it's important not to bite off chunks that are too big to chew at once. You know, you don't want to think of every single task that you do in terms of, you know, how much can I do at once? You don't want to think in terms of trying to do too much at once to the point where even with something you enjoy, you start to kind of resent it. And that's what's happened with the look-aheads, and it's also kind of what's happened with Strategy School. I love Civilization 6, and I love doing those tutorial videos, but so much went into the initial process with the series earlier this year that there's a kind of it's not just procrastination. It's a kind of anxiety. I don't want to say dread, because I do enjoy, you know, doing this content, and I enjoy doing look-aheads. I enjoy giving you guys a bit of a personal view into the schedule and a preview of what's coming soon in the channel. But with the look-aheads, the way that I was doing them, I was simply trying to do too much. And every time it would come time for me to do a look-ahead, I would say, I don't know when I'm going to fit in time to do this recording, edit the audio, and then put it all together. It was usually a pretty big time commitment on top of all the other things that I just talked about. And it got to a point where I just kept putting it off and never wanted to do it. So look-aheads from now on are going to be every quarter. Not every 2 months, they're going to be every quarter. So we're going to have 4 per year. We're not going to have AMAs every time. We're going to have AMAs twice a year, sometimes just once a year. So once or twice. Twice at the maximum, and I prefer to keep it at 2, but I want to give myself that flexibility. The other thing is that they can really pop up at any time during a quarter. Obviously, I would like to do them earlier in the quarter so we can go through like my entire preview, but I might not have information, like if we're doing it in the first month of the quarter, I might not have information on what's going to be happening in the third month unless I wait a little bit. So in general, you can expect one look ahead at some point during every 3-month period of the year for each quarter. And the purpose of the look ahead videos before was to go through this kind of complex list of different topics. And I do still want to do that, but I'm going to keep it much more focused on the spreadsheet and much more focused on the games that are currently big draws for the channel. And I want to focus on those in the discussion. What's next for those games? What's next for the series that are currently running? And then conclude. And then the AMAs, of course, what I typically do is I'll be putting out an AMA announcement soon for the next look ahead, for the quarter 4 look ahead, so that you guys can start thinking about your questions. So begin thinking about them now. Don't leave me questions, because I haven't actually put out the AMA yet, but then I will answer the questions in the look ahead. But that will be something that makes some look ahead videos longer, but the general point of this is actually to make them shorter overall. So that is what I'm thinking with the revamped look ahead process. And without further ado, and because I do want these to be shorter, I want to go ahead and wrap up. Before I wrap up though, I do want to talk about forecasts. And again, we're going to spend more time and more detail talking about this in future look ahead videos, but let's talk about what's coming soon for each of the time slots. First of all, notice that I am not doing any Frostpunk series just yet. In the spirit of everything that I've just explained, I am just bringing Dynastic Divinity into the 4 p.m. time slot starting on Friday, on the week of 26th, what's that, 27, 28, 29, 31st. Friday the 31st of August. Obviously, you guys don't need the day. I don't know why I just did that, because you guys are watching this on the 30th. You know it's tomorrow. You get the point. You're looking at the screen same as everyone else. I'm a dummy. So we are going to bring back Dynastic Divinity, and I don't think Dynastic Divinity is going to last a particularly long time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over by 50, because we're going to defeat the contingency. And that is the main thing, honestly. I think that's going to be a great endpoint for the series. I will be ready to stop it at that point, and there are a lot of good teasers building up for the next version of Stellaris, and I want to start getting ready to cover those, because my coverage videos for Apocalypse were quite popular, and I want to make sure that I am on top of that again and give you guys a lot of good information, because I think a lot of you are still here because of those videos, and I want to make sure that I keep those coming. Same is true, by the way, for Imperator for our next main historical strategy release. So Paradox's upcoming Rome game, I haven't done a video since the announcement, and some coverage of that will be coming in the next few months, which I'm looking forward to as well. So we are definitely going to be bringing that into that time slot. I'm going to talk about Stellaris first, obviously, and I've really done a lot of Stellaris content this year, and I will continue, again, to focus on this new content coming up, and I'll do a series for sure. I might even do another series aside from Dynastic Divinity before this new patch comes out. It depends on, you know, how close it is, whether it's a Q4 release or a Q1 2019 release. That'll kind of determine what else is going on. But then the other big 4 p.m. game that a lot of you might be wondering about, and this is like statistically tied with the Long Dark. I am talking about these games in the order in which they have brought the most subscribers in. So that's kind of how I decide which games to talk about first, and that's The Long Dark. The Long Dark I have not played for a month and a half or so on the channel. I think, when did Vigilant Flame Interloper end? Right here. It ended on this Saturday, the first week of this quarter, in fact. So it's been since, July 7th that we've had any Long Dark content on the channel. And I've talked about this extensively, but just for the sake of anyone who might have missed it, what I'm doing with The Long Dark is I am waiting until the next major patch drops to do a new series of Against All Odds. I know that might make it seem like it's going to be a while. I'm hoping that we see another one before the end of the year. But the reason that I am waiting is, and I've said this a lot, I have played so much of The Long Dark. I have close to, I believe, 500 videos of The Long Dark on the channel. Not quite 500. I've got a particularly dedicated viewer who has been tracking that. And I know I will clear that the next time I start a series. But I've played the game a lot. And I want to make sure that the next time I play it, not only am I able to really enjoy the new updates and tell you about the new updates from a fresh perspective, but I just want to make sure I'm still having fun with the game, period. It is possible, when you're doing a YouTube channel and you find a particular game is successful for you, it's possible to play it too much to the point where, yeah, maybe people are still enjoying watching you play it, but secretly you're not really enjoying playing it. And I don't want to be that way. I don't think that's good for me, and I also don't think it's good for you. Even if you buy it, if I fake it, which I don't fake it, and I don't want to. Even if you were to buy it, I don't like the feeling of that. So I am waiting to play more of The Long Dark because I want it to be meaningful when I do. And frankly, I expect that it will be a long series that people will thoroughly enjoy and will be worth the wait when it arrives. So you're not going to see, as we go through the rest of the schedule, any more Long Dark content. But just know that that you guys are in my thoughts, and I will be, keeping an eye on the releases and the updates for The Long Dark in the weeks and months to come. And more about that maybe in the next AMA as well, or in the next look ahead as well. So the next game down the list, oops, scrolled down the wrong file there. I've got a text file pulled up on my other monitor that has just some basic talking points, and I was looking at my list. So the next game in terms of subscriber count is actually Civilization 6. And you might not think that from some of the view counts on Strategy School. Strategy School is a different series, not being a Let's Play. I think that series is going to build up more views over time, and the more complete the series becomes, I think it's going to become more and more successful for the channel. As I mentioned with Strategy School, this has been, obviously, just look at my track record with this series. It's just, yeah, it's been interesting. I started it before this quarter, and we're still on episode 15. Especially for the first 10 episodes or so, Strategy School has been tough to record because I am, frankly, too much of a perfectionist for my own good. So that's really the reason for any kind of, when you strip away everything else, that's really the reason for the issues with Strategy School. And I think going forward with this focus on paring down the schedule and making sure that I don't push myself too hard to do like a third series, a third Let's Play at one time, I'll have more energy to make sure I have the Monday, Wednesday, Friday regular Strategy School episodes going. So obviously we're not going to have a new one until next Friday, because as you can see here, I am going out of town tomorrow, but we are going to get the series humming after that. And then, in terms of Civilization, once Total War Rome 2 has had its 20 days with Camillus, In Denial will hopefully begin. If not In Denial, it will be another series in the build-up to In Denial. In Denial is my first series. It's a pun on the Nile, because I'm going to be playing as Cleopatra, my least favorite leader in Civilization 6, but I'm going to play as her, and I have a certain combination of mods that I would like to use with this series. That's one of the reasons that I've been not playing a lot of Civilization 6 this year, even though Civilization 6 has been a wheelhouse title for so long, and I haven't even played that much Rise and Fall, which is surprising. Mainly, I've wanted to focus on Strategy School, but I wasn't expecting, for instance, the new expansions to Total War to come out and all these things, so that's been taking up some of my time. So you can look forward to that in the coming months, and that'll mean that the 10 a.m. slot will be taken up for the next few months by probably In Denial or some other Civ series, and Camillus in Total War Rome 2, which brings me to Camillus, and one of my side time sinks, because those of you who have paid very good attention over the past little while know that, yes, I mentioned that I've have all these other draws on my time, and it's difficult to kind of balance everything, but there has been, I don't want to put myself forward as this completely, perfectly managed, well-scheduled person who never slips up and just has a day where he doesn't do what he's supposed to, because that happens to me. And even when I have those days nowadays, I tend to work on things that are important for something in my life. And in this case, it's been working on the campaign fog mods that I've been doing to support the Camillus series. And they've been really popular in the Steam Workshop for Rome 2. If you haven't downloaded those yet, check them out. They really make the game a lot prettier on the campaign map, and I've been tweaking them constantly, obsessively. It's a little bit of a problem. But Camillus has been going really well. I'm looking forward to that series starting back up. And I've of course played through a full campaign on Rise of the Republic just to make sure that I knew what I was doing, but I really enjoy it. And I think we've got a lot of good story-like content to look forward to, and some good battles coming up in Camillus as we establish the early Republic in Rome 2 Total War. It's always fun to go back and play the early Roman days on my channel, just for obvious reasons. So beyond that, there are some minor games that are much lower on the list in terms of subscribers that have been brought in, but I do want to mention them because they're either on the schedule right now or I have played them a lot and people might be curious. Subnautica is the next one, and as far as subscriber count down the list. I will be returning to Subnautica at some point in the future, but it's going to be a while, just like it was a while between the last series and the one before it. Just because we're waiting for the expansion to come out. We're waiting for new details on the expansion. It's still in development, and it's probably not till next year. Might have more information by the end of this year. But the expansion, as far as I know, is not coming out this year. And even if it does, I don't know that I'll do a new series in it this year. We'll have to see. But Subnautica is something that I'll come back to in the future. Surviving Mars, obviously, we are doing a series called Shadow of Elysium Redux right now. That's going to come back after I do a little bit of Frostpunk, which I talked about at the end of the first run of Redux. And so that's going to come back right at the end of the quarter here. And Frostpunk will take up the 20 days before it at whatever point. This is not a precise schedule because we don't know when Dynastic Divinity is going to end. So everything you see after this week in the 4 p.m. slot, Sci-Fi and Strategy, is kind of, we'll see how that pans out. But that is it for the current schedule. And of course, we're going to have a more full look ahead with channel-related topics and less explanation of schedule stupidity in the coming weeks and such. But that'll be probably in October at some point. Like I said, maybe November. It can come at any point in the quarter, but I'd like to do this one earlier. And look for an AMA announcement before long, because I will be, asking people to submit questions, so there's plenty of time to do that. And I'll attach cards to every video so that, people know that it's coming. But that will be coming up soon as well. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. Also, don't forget to leave questions in the comments below. I'm happy to talk to you about stuff related to a game that you're interested in seeing on the channel, that's related to a, something that with a series that is currently going, or a series that I might do in the future, or anything I've mentioned in this video. I'm happy to, kind of clarify to a certain extent. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. Comments are always welcome. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.